What we're going to do now is also invite Simon Brown, who today is representing the Heseltine Estate Regeneration Panel, to join us. And I think, Simon, first of all, if you wouldn't mind thinking about what you've just heard this morning, do you have any reflections on what people have said? So many.
Where to start? Yes, no, I knew you'd ask me that one, and yeah. So it's a very difficult area to summarise. Obviously, I think I'm still taking lessons from this, and Gerry, Sue, Tricia, Helen, you've come up with some refreshing ideas. I mean, the first one is that we're going to be changing the name of the team to Neighbourhood Regeneration. Yeah, no, I mean, that's a very important point, actually. But so many issues I take from this, the honest offer, not over-promising, don't build unrealistic expectations. This is crucial. And I say that also applies to the government. Don't have too many expectations. Sorry, it's a joke. No, please. Yes, the local authority engagement, different models. Actually, yes, this is an important one, the different models. A lot of people come at this thinking, yeah, we're just going to demolish everything. But the infill model, it often falls off the agenda, you know, and people think, well, that, you know, we haven't forgotten that. We've got that on our list. Engage, communities, stakeholders, so many things I take from that. I'm not going to respond in technical detail to this because I have to say, we are basically still in sort of feedback mode. We are learning things, and my message to you, I don't know how much you want me to keep going.
Well, I think one thing we want to do is maybe ask if anyone has any messages to give to the panel.
Okay, right, well, I'll quickly finish up then. Okay, well, basically, there are two strands to the work that's going on at the moment. We have Heseltine vigorously, for an 83-year-old, he's amazingly vigorous, chairing the advisory panel. We have another meeting next Tuesday. It happens to be in Leamington Spa. And they're taking evidence, so you can get in touch if you have anything you'd like to put to the panel. If you think you want us to take anything into account or them to look at anything, get in touch. Expressions of interest. We have a statement now on the website from the government saying, if you've got an estate, get in touch. We now have a brokering advisory group that's up and running that will be very interested in getting in touch with the estate. It doesn't matter who you are, community group, developer, authority, housing association, doesn't matter. Get in touch. We want to know about you. Remember, I have a crazy target. I've got to engage with 100 estates. That was the Prime Minister's Christmas present to me. And that's a very ambitious thing to secure. So thankfully I'm not being asked to deliver 100 estates, but it's a very ambitious level of engagement we have to work with. The other thing is it's national. You're all talking about London here. We're looking national. And one of the interesting things was you said a question for me was what are the unique challenges London faces? So it was on your blurb. I have to answer that question. I would actually say London's in a pretty damn good place compared to some of the things that we're having to look at across the rest of the country, because the Prime Minister's very interested in this. Believe me, he is. And he wants this looking nationally. It's not just London. So in fact, the issue really is what are the challenges, you know, nationally, and London's. You've got some unique issues, yeah, I grant you that, but there's something you've got more of an advantage here. Finally, we also are interested in ideas about how we can use our £140 million. We have a loan fund. And if you're getting in touch, ideas please on a postcard. We do have some interesting thoughts about this. Obviously, it's not going to go far if you just hand it out to a few estates. So I think we're looking creatively about other ideas, possibly stuff to do with smaller amounts from master planning and so forth. So ideas, please. Oh, final point, quickly, I've scribbled some things down here. We are already starting to respond to some of the points that have been made through your process. In fact, if you look at the starter homes consultation, there's a paragraph in there which says, should these apply to estates? So get in touch on the starter homes consultation. I put that paragraph in there because obviously it's an issue that's been raised. You know, some people have said that it might have a detrimental impact or a knock-on effect on viability. So get in touch on that. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, that's perfect, Simon. I think one of the things that's good is having you here today. We'll take 3 questions because we're very conscious of time, and that can be either to Simon or to the board. So one over here, and then one over here. Go ahead, sir. Say where you're from, please.
Sorry, my name's Frank Vickery. I've worked in housing and regeneration in East London for 40 years. I think the main thing about trusting tenants is you can put them in control. The Poplar Housing and Regeneration Company runs an 8,000 unit local housing company, doing the regeneration programme, doing the infills, having the starter home shared ownership. It's been doing that now for 15 years and is a fantastic example of how you put the overall revenue together. That is critical. It has its own business plan. It has a plan for running their community and training bases. It creates a set of jobs where about 40% of the staff at Poplar Harker are local. So when they go to a ballot, they've actually got a lot of people on the ground to take away a lot of the misunderstandings that are spread by gossip.
So we have a recommendation for residents actually taking control.
Resident control over these regeneration projects.
Okay, thank you. Next, we had a hand up over here.
Yeah,
Who was that?
this is actually related to that
Can
comment.
you say where you're from, please, and who you are?
Catherine Firth. I'm an urban designer and architect. Everybody talked a lot about the vested interest of the community and how incredibly important it is to bring the community along. And I was just wondering if to that end there are alternative development models that people have experienced, either successes or failures, whether it's anything from community land trusts through co-housing, through custom build, or any others that I haven't mentioned.
Okay, thank you. Do we have one more? I've got one more in the back here.
Thank you. I'm Hannah David from Planning Futures think tank. Hannah David, Planning Futures think tank. There was a very important point made about engaging with champions within the different groups, which obviously is fundamental to bringing on large groups of people because those individuals can relate to their particular sector and their particular groups. One particular point that I think needs to be stressed is, at the moment I'm writing a paper on planning committees and the knowledge of councillors on those committees, and there seems to be a severe lack of knowledge in large authorities actually within inner London about regeneration schemes and the complexities involved within those regeneration schemes. And I think there needs to be an effective programme of training for those councillors within those areas so that they can actually relate to their constituents.
Thank you for that plug for Future of London's leadership training course. Thank you. I think so. We have 3 questions, a point and 2 questions. One is about, can you actually put residents or tenants more in control? Another one about, are there alternative models? And then the third one about the level of knowledge or skill among staff to some degree, councillors to another degree perhaps. Do you want to take on let's start in the middle. Alternative models. Anyone working on alternative models in this group? There are a lot out there. It depends on how much they're being promoted. Tricia.
Well, actually, my colleague here, Patrick, is the expert in this, but we have been working with, it's called OUCH, Older Women's Cooperative Housing, which is, he was actually recently on Vanessa Feltz, of all things, with talking about this project, which is a really lovely project that's taken a long time to get off the ground, but hopefully will be a model for future, which is cooperative housing for older women who wanted to live together. There was some funding. They brought some of their own money as well, and it's the sort of housing where there is your private space and there's also shared space. And I think this is a real model for future housing, especially for older people, and that will be developed further.
I think there are a number of models out there now as well, which you can start to get out. Gerry,
I would conjoin 2 of those questions if that's possible, because there are, and I alluded to this in my presentation, but more at the strategic level about the range of approaches you might adopt to delivery. but that's not the full range. And in fact, you could broaden that range out to the one extreme where you have community-led approaches similar to the one we just heard about. There is no one answer. It very much depends upon the circumstances. And there are specific approaches. You mentioned custom build. It might be part of a solution. I don't think it's a panacea in any one particular solution, but those approaches can be weaved into the solution to a particular set of problems if it's appropriate in a particular instance. But one thing that is a real issue, which is really why we decided we wanted to support the Future of London, and it picks up the point that was just made by the lady at the back, is the lack of information exchange and intelligence that exists in even in the professional world, let alone in the political world, about what is being done elsewhere, or what can be done, or what their experiences are, is pretty poor, frankly. And we are engaging with Future of London to try, in a London context, to start to get some of that exchange happening, and the leadership and the training programs that you're running as the next sort of gestation of that, I guess. I think in London context, I know this is difficult because there's always a tension between local authorities and the GLA, but I do think the GLA has a role to play in this as well in some way. And I also think, we would like to see the task force, or whatever it's called actually, having a role to play in starting to draw some of those concepts out in whatever it's produced in its final form. So this is a really key issue.
Thanks very much. Does anyone else want a final comment? Because I'm aware of the time. I'd like to get some contact info from Simon. Would anyone else have a final comment they need to make before the room disappears?
I suppose my only comment would be in terms of planning committees. I think you're absolutely right. And the reality is when you work with councillors extensively, you get quite a big difference sometimes between the leadership and the cabinet and your local councillors, and then you've got councillors on the planning committee. And actually, again, part of the job is about bringing everybody along with you. And for me, that's then about that preparation again. It's about how you put councillors along as a specific stakeholder group, absolutely, as well as everybody else. Because otherwise, they're the ones actually out there on the doorstep and getting a lot of flack. And unless you've given them the tools to deal with that, I don't think we've done our job very well.
Thanks very much, folks. Can you please thank the panel? So make sure that contact information for the actual panel, the Heseltine panel, is available as part of the roundup for this. So please do give your suggestions to them. We're delighted that you're actually giving the report and the roundtable practitioners a hearing. So thank you for that. And keep the best practice, keep in touch with us. Thanks very much to our panel.
Thank you.